Sometimes even the property owner knows. So when you're having them sign your seller's disclosure, they might know, or they might have an addition of the house that's incomplete, or they might say, hey, we had a big issue with our roofing contractor. They didn't really call for inspections, the permit's still open. Those things we want to resolve in the beginning. We don't want to wait until the buyer's title company pulls the lien search. And sometimes other lien search, other title companies, they wait till after the inspection period. Well, after the inspection period is a little bit too late sometimes for these municipalities to report the information. The municipalities take 10 days, 12 days, 8 days, and they charge money. And that's why some of the other title companies, they're waiting to pull the lien search later in the game until they know they have a solid deal. But for us as owners representatives and you guys, we want to make sure we find out about these deficiencies early. I'll go over the parts of a lien search in this presentation. And so if you have a listing and you represent the seller, it's best to know about these deficiencies early. Through our training, we know we use a seller's disclosure. We listen to our sellers. However, if you represent a buyer, we've been told to put on our contracts that the seller is to close all open permits and code violations at closing at own expense. Why have they trained up? Why are all the title companies and real estate attorneys using that? Because they added that in. Well, I think about 4 years ago when they went over the Florida Bar as is contract, it's just open in there that the seller needs to cooperate with closing these things. And usually they're find out about these things outside the property inspection period, meaning your 5, 7, 10-day due diligence. So then it leaves it up in the air. Escrow's hard, where we have our rate lock, our loan commitment, and then all of a sudden we get hit with the lien search. And so your seller has already been negotiated with once, sometimes during the property inspection period. We don't want a closing to be held up. We don't want a rate lock to be lost. We don't want these things to happen. So usually I'm called, unfortunately, I'm called after the fact, after the buyer's title company got the lien search, 5 or 10 days before the closing. But through my trainings throughout South Florida and identifying what a lien search is and educating agents and title companies, it doesn't have to be that way. So the main components of a lien search are you have your property taxes, and I'll go through that in the presentation, but there's a really important part. It's permit searches and code violations. And that costs money that the lien search company has to spend to pay the city to get the information. I said, why should the city charge for that information? It's public information. Or I could go on the city's website and get it, but the city's website doesn't have all of the information on the website. So they might have 5 years of permit history and not 10 years. Or for example, Weston, which used to use Broward County Building Department back in 2005, you won't know how many different building departments you have to go to. So these are multi-jurisdictional lien searches. A lot of times we have so many municipalities, meaning Sunrise is water. Broward County was building before the city of Weston incorporated in '96. So there's all these things. So mainly they're used for tax and water bills and utilities, but we're mainly here to talk about the permits and code violations. Does anyone have any questions about what a lien search is, or what an expired or open permit is, or code violation or lien?
What are lien searches?
Well, I'm gonna go over that in the present. Let me rephrase that. Has everyone dealt with these issues with the city?
Yes.
Have you seen these issues happen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna skip around right here to answer your question. A lien search, this is the front page of a lien search. And this is a local company, Reliable Lien Search, who we work with. And the reason why I got working with Reliable Lien Search is usually lien search companies only work with title companies, but agents of mine starting to want to order lien searches, or property owners, or say, for example, I represent an owner of a shopping center, or so say this shopping center, for example, the property manager of this shopping center might want to pull lien searches periodically Because even if they're not selling the property, because 2 years down the line, they might want to refinance. And then they'll have to pull a lien search at that time. The tenants are doing all sorts of work. A couple of them don't have their local business tax receipt. They have violations with the town of Davie. So that is why this information is constantly evolving and changing. So what's really, so this is the property taxes, which is right here. This is the front page of a lien search. So this is the property taxes, summary page, utilities. These are the parts that, I'm talking about right now. The code enforcement, permits, and building violation. So the important thing about the lien search is that it's identified all that, and it tells you who to contact, and it doesn't tell you the resolution. That's mainly what I'm for, but it at least identifies the problems. Where's the page? Oh, we don't have that. I'll go backwards. So this is what a lien search includes: taxes, utilities, municipal code violations, building violations, special assessments, tax special assessments. I had on our past presentation, a Tamarack and a Miami Gardens lien search. So basically part of Tamarack uses Fort Lauderdale for water. They use Broward County for some services. Where I used to work in Miami, Miami Springs, Miami Gardens, south of 595, mainly in North Dade, they mainly have areas of the county that they use. So you'll see multi-jurisdictional lien searches. You'll even see searches, for example, which I'll show you. You'll even see code violations on there, overgrowth on lots. Someone even asked me why would an animal or pet violation be on there? Someone didn't get their rabies tag renewed in Miami-Dade County. They lien the property. They don't lien the tenant. They lien the property. So, and sometimes our owners, they might have inherited, if the lien search wasn't done correctly or the closing wasn't done correctly, they might have inherited these problems from previous owners. So now we have to close today and we have to clean up the problem.
How would you know if a property has multiple municipalities that do it?
From the lien search. So
As a realtor looking at the property from a tax perspective.
That's a,
How would you?
okay. So, I'm going to answer the question for two different counties. Let's use Miami-Dade for an example. Miami-Dade, if the folio number begins with 30, it's unincorporated Dade. There's a huge part of unincorporated Dade out west and southwest and parts of Aventura and Ives Dairy and all these different areas. So if it begins with 30, you're dealing with the county. If it begins with 01, you're dealing with City of Miami. If you're dealing with 32, it's Bal Harbor, Aventura. So 1 through 36 is the city that you're working with. A lot of agents I was on the Golden Glades the other day, in the North Miami Beach, North Miami border. The agent says, this property is in North Miami Beach or North Miami. It says North Miami on the trash cans. I know what's going on here, but the property was an unincorporated Dade. So the best way to know about that is to go on the property appraiser's website. It tells you the jurisdiction. Now, to take your question a little bit further, you want to know if multi-jurisdictions are included. You would have to know about the history of when the municipality incorporated. So for example, City of Weston incorporated in 96, but didn't open up their building department until 2006. So between 96 and 2006, I also need to check Broward County because they were the building department. So you'll have this is very complicated. There's over 36 municipalities in Dade. There's another 30 in Broward. There's another 30 in Palm Beach. It's different. Like when I was in Tampa and Hillsborough County at USF, there were 3 cities. Here we have a lot of cities. I know West Park was one of the last cities to incorporate in Broward County. So they annexed their own part over north of Miami Gardens and Hollywood area, Pembroke Park. So there's only in Broward, for example, the county we're standing in now, there's only a couple unincorporated parts. But every part is incorporated, and prior to its incorporation, they might have been using other services. So really, my recommendation is to contact the lien search company and to give them the property address, give them the folio, and ask them. And you're probably, and some of the information you could find out online through public portals. Some of the information is piece information, which means all of the years back don't show up on the public portals. And some of the information you have to pay for. The city's not going to release that, or the town, or the municipality. So it gets very complicated when you're dealing with municipal lien searches. That's why title companies, they hire municipal lien search companies, a third party, to go ahead and perform this. They're usually about anywhere from $150 to $300. It's $80 above what the city charges. And the city of Miramar charges $180, and they take 12 days. Lauderhill and Lauderdale Lakes, I had a cash closing that was held up. I'm an agent myself, not practicing. Family member wanted to buy a property. We were waiting 12 business days. And this wasn't COVID related or shutdown related or anything like that. And I'm very appreciative that we live in South Florida and all of our cities continue to operate. Because imagine if cities were closed and we couldn't pull municipal lien searches, then we couldn't get title insurance and close on real estate transactions. You can close with some expired permits. I'll give you some examples of expireds. Santiago, no, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
Or you could change it from there.
Go ahead.
Okay, you can close with some expired permits. I'll give you a list and an example. Additions, demolition, remodel. A lot of these cities, they want a permit for an AC change out. In a single family residence, if it's out of an HOA, some people don't pull permits for these things. Just because they don't pull permits doesn't mean that it's done wrong. And just because there's an expired permit or inactive permit doesn't mean that the permit can't be renewed, because I renew the permit in my licenses and I close out the permits. Hopefully there's no corrective work that's necessary to pass inspection, but if there is, I do cover those items. So I can handle it from A to Z. For example, someone called me, hey, Service America's out of business. They installed my water heater, plumbing. We didn't let them in the house, or they never called for final inspection. They were paid for. So we need to do a change of contractor, renew the permit, get it active with the city, and then call for inspection.
Are they really out of business?
They are. Yeah. Yeah. Service America, this was, I think, a couple years. The large appliance company, they're a warranty company and they do new installs. Again, even if the company is in business, so say your client has an open AC permit and the AC company's in Davie and they've already been paid, unfortunately, good luck getting that company back. Unfortunately, there's no skin in the game for them. They've already been paid. The property owner could complain to the DVPR, the people who regulate all of our licenses, but it all falls on the property owner. That's why as property owners, it's really important that we make sure the contractors, if they pull a permit, they close it out. But on some single family properties, to pull a permit for kitchen and bathrooms, even keeping everything in the same place, a permit is required, but it costs so much money too. Between plans, starting and stopping work, architect, engineer. So that's why I understand where a lot of property owners choose not to pull a permit. And obviously unpermitted work, your home inspector, I don't do general residential home property inspections, but your home inspector might say, hey, this looks like a new kitchen, check for a permit or something like that. But we like to tell our buyers, every property is going to have unpermitted work. No one's pulled a permit for everything the city would want. It'd be impossible. I work with a lot of agents call me, hey, can you build a pool in the backyard? What is the zoning? What is the survey? What should we do with this kitchen? So I'm brought in all the time to evaluate these situations to get you guys to the closing table. That's my job as an owner's rep.
So just to confirm, you're saying this is a list of ones that you can close without a closed permit?
Good question. So technically, an open and expired permit, you can close with it. If it's usually a conventional loan, it's not an issue with the title insurance, you could close with it. A screen enclosure, any open or expired permit you can close with. Sometimes they credit the buyer some money, sometimes they do an escrow holdback. But as long as it's not a lien or a code violation, in general, you can close with an open and expired permit. However, the property owner who's buying the property, if we're representing the buyer, they should at least know what they're buying so we could keep their relationship with them. Because, for example, house in Silver Lakes, property owner wants to install a brand new kitchen, or they buy a house with a brand new kitchen. 9 months after they buy the house with a brand new kitchen, they want to install windows and doors. Well, when the window and door inspector comes in there and he sees a new kitchen and he goes into the city's website in his portal and he sees no kitchen and bathroom permit, it may become a problem at that point. So at least we want to make our buyers aware of these situations.
So you said though a minute ago, if the title company's okay with it, so it's all.
If the title underwriter is okay with it,
Right.
and the mortgage company's okay with it, people close with open and expired permits all the time.
Okay.
Now, if those open or expired permits escalated to liens, code violations, then you have an issue where you need to bring the property into compliance, get the necessary permits, and then they'll let you mitigate those liens. But open and expired permits, they're not title issues. They're not. So sometimes I'm brought in to evaluate them, resolve them prior to closing, determine what credit needs to be offered to the buyer, things like that.
So, like you were saying about how, on the front end, if you see things on lien searches, so if you see that, it would probably be a good idea to reach out to the title company and the mortgage company just to make sure it's not going to be an issue at the end, because usually they don't think about those things until right before you're about to close.
That's and if you represent the buyer,
Right.
that would mean that you're getting the lien search. It's optimal to get the lien search, the reports from the lien search inside the inspection period. And the only way that could be done is that the day the contract signed, the title company orders the lien search, or you order the lien search, or the property owner, or whatever you want. The lien search, the information is only good for about 30 days, and then it has to be updated. But for me, I'm thinking I have a listing, and I'm a real estate agent, and I would invest in the lien search. If I couldn't explain to the property owner, or I saw problems the property owner had on the property, or they explained to me things, if you want to ever call me, you could, or if you can't explain to the buyer to the seller that they should order a lien search, you can talk to me. Or you could go on the city's website and I could show you, and maybe we can pull up some public information to then start the resolution process. But either way, the seller's going to get hit. The seller's going to get hit. Either they're going to have to credit the buyer some money, even in a crazy seller's market like it is now. No buyer wants to pay top dollar and inherit someone else's problems. They want to at least get compensated for it or have it fixed or something. That's why it's inherent that we know about this during the property inspection period, because then your seller's not negotiated with twice. Once for maybe a deficiency here or there, and then right before closing, and then you have a deal that's falling apart, you have a rate lock that you're losing, and I'm here to keep that all together for you. And it's a gut-wrenching process, and there's a lot of parties involved. So I'm here to help you navigate that. And again, aside from the seller's disclosure, I've seen realtors facilitate my process because their seller's absentee, they're out of the country, they're in Lake Worth, they're wherever they are, and they go to the building department themselves. They try and contact the contractor who was on the permit. They invite the city and the property, and the city might find more problems. For example, I might say, for example, hey, look, there's a bunch of compliance issues with this electrical panel, like in Hollywood or in Miramar. These guys modified the screen enclosure for 3 times. So I might say, hey, look, there's a metal railing in here supporting the screen enclosure. There's a fan to the left. There's electric tied to it that's not grounded and was done without a permit and is an electrical hazard. I might say, leave it alone and credit the buyer some money. Or I was in a situation in Pompano the other day when there was a hot water heater on the outside sparking electricity right next to an illegal addition. The agent's like, oh, I'll call Pompano out here. I'll pay him $76. They'll go ahead and close the water heater permit. But again, little did they know that that would have caused a code violation on that property, and they would have tied up their listing and hurt their seller by facilitating that process. The good part about a situation like I'm describing is the buyer was an investor. He was going to renovate the whole house anyway. The seller was in a hardship situation. They were going through a divorce. They didn't have the money to pay for resolution. They paid for my inspection. I went to the property. I advised the parties accordingly, and they credited the buyer some money. Again, the buyer was going to pull permits to renovate the whole house anyway. So having called the city there to close that water heater could have triggered code violations and things like that. That would have had them stuck big time. Another area I want to touch on is reoccupancy inspections. Reoccupancy inspections are very important in Miami-Dade County. And what they're doing right now is they're going into houses like this in Village of Biscayne Park or homes like this in North Miami. And they're going in these houses and looking for work without permits.
Oh my God.
So the city, Miami Gardens, Miami Lakes, El Portal, Hialeah, Opelika, they have houses that are older, old housing stock, that they were once governed under unincorporated Dade, let's say, in Miami Gardens example, before 2003, and a lot of shit went on then. So they're trying to use the transfer of ownership through this reoccupancy inspection to get property owners to pull permits or get stipulated agreements for the new owners to bring things into compliance. And they're looking for everything. They're looking for efficiencies. They're looking for sheds in the back corner of the lot with the setbacks. They're looking for open roofing, roofs that were done without permits, stair rail installations. They're looking for everything. And my advice to you is be very cautious if you have a seller in North Miami or buyer and you're facilitating that reoccupancy inspection. You could check on the permits. You could have the property owner, the seller. Why not have the seller remove the shed on the property line in the setbacks with the illegal electric connected to it? Why not have them get rid of that before the reoccupancy inspection without permits? So there's some things that you could do proactively that I could advise the owner to do as an owner's rep contractor, or we can do it ourselves, or any advice. And keep in mind, a lot of these sellers are in hardship, meaning they've lived in the house for 25 years. They might not have the funds to fix it before closing, and these issues become very sensitive.
So reoccupancy inspection is not clear to me. So who's asking for that? Or
The cities, so there's about 9 or 10 cities. I'll provide Gabby with a list. She'll email it to everyone in Miami-Dade County, Village of Biscayne Park, El Portal, North Miami, Miami
Miami
Gardens.
Gardens.
What they're saying is
Yeah, so at what time of the process? So
it's usually done prior to closing.
okay.
So
Issued by the title company, do they need to announce here we have a contract for this property?
So the lien,
Yeah, that's a question that before, I'm sorry to interrupt. That's a question because I have closed many houses in Miami Gardens. and
Sure.
I'm always have that issue, and the sellers usually they take care of. But my thing is, how do the cities know that that property is vacant? Or it happens every time the property is being transferred to a new owner?
Oh, it's only when it's vacant?
no. So there's a vacant property registration, and that's a good question, Gabby. Someone called me in Hollywood, and I have a property over in Hollywood. And someone calls me over there, they say, how do they know that I rent it? Because Hollywood was trying to enforce their rental licenses. And they've enforced the rental licenses to get an occupancy inspection to see people who are doing Airbnbs, things like that. They look for code compliance issues. The Airbnbs are cash cows. Cities don't know how to navigate them, and they want the city to go ahead, and the city wants the property owners to adhere to the same standards as the hotels, because they're inviting the public on the property, so they're changing. To go back to your question, the city, they know that the property's vacant, either through a vacant property registration. That was done in the REO days 10 years ago. They also know through utility bills. They could check and see what name the utility bill, the water bill's name is under. So they find out ways to know if an owner's living in the property, not only by looking if it's homesteaded on the property appraiser, they find ways to know if an owner's living in a property, if there's a tenant living in a property. There's also some vacant property registrations, which Miami-Dade County used to have for the banks. Because these properties, they had to be checked on all the time for if they were in distress, boarded up, things like that. I've done a lot of classes with the CDPE designation. So, you know, maybe in a couple of years, we'll have a wave of bank-owned properties, and those assets need to be managed. The municipalities want to see those properties are registered with them, so they can keep a particular eye on them. They don't want squatters in the property, but we don't have many issues like that in this market. The main issue in this market right now is the market's hot, and the city wants to collect their money, and the city wants to get things into compliance. And that's really what we're.
Think like they want
So again,
to collect their money.
so if I have a contract in Miami
That's all.
Gardens, Miami Lakes, Hialeah, what you mentioned, I have to expect that the city's coming out for a reoccupation.
You're gonna have to expect that a reoccupancy
They do
inspection
that 100%.
is gonna,
Yeah,
you're
they
gonna
do.
have to order it.
Okay.
The title company's gonna let you know, hey, this is a reoccupancy city. You need the buyer or
Okay.
seller, you need to schedule an inspection, and they will let you
And
know.
who's paying for that usually?
The
Typically
seller.
the seller pays for it. I've seen issue, and again, even if you fail the reoccupancy inspection and it becomes so much money to fix the problems, or there's unpermitted work or code violations, there are case-by-case scenarios where they offer something called a stipulated agreement, where the city will hold money in escrow. They'll hold $5,000 of money in escrow, and they'll say the new buyer is gonna, once the property closes, we're gonna write a code violation for the new buyer. And they're gonna have to fix these problems within 1 year. And if they don't, they lose the $5,000. Obviously, they're not doing that in unsafe structure. They're here to, for, as much as I hate on the city, they're here for consumer protection. They're here so
Let's believe. so.
people aren't, you know, and again, they're here, so they're doing the reoccupancies because people were buying investors were flipping houses, always, and people were buying them and they were getting hurt in them. So then people come to the city and say, what are you doing for my protection?
Mhm.
You're not
Oh, I get it.
enforcing permits, you're not, you know, these properties didn't have violations, nothing came up on the lien search because none of the work was done without a permit. And the city never caught the guys with the cabinets in front of the property or the drywall in front of the property. So in Broward County, we don't have any municipalities to date that I know of doing reoccupancy inspections.
Thank you, Jesus. No,
However,
Coral Springs does.
they do?
Yeah, they do.
They started that?
Yeah, because I have a property that it was changing for tenants,
Okay.
and they require the landlord to do it.
For the landlord license?
No, occupancy
For
certificate.
the property was being sold.
No, changing rent, tenants.
So that was because of that I believe was because of the occupational license that the city has, and they come in and inspect the property. Whenever, again, you could have a property that's being rented out by tenants for 5 years, and then the 6th year, the city finds out, hey, they're renting the property. We want you to get an occupational license. Even if they own 10 properties in the city, the cities are requiring landlords to get occupational licenses. And what do occupational license or business tax receipts mean? Inspections. So they're using that as kind of a gateway,
Mhm.
and they're using it to see who's doing Airbnb. Some of the zoning codes, they don't allow Airbnb in single families, but some of the cities don't have rules against it. It's kind of like uncharted territory. I have a beautiful house that I'm in Coral Springs and in West Glen off the Sawgrass. They're doing Airbnb in there. There's no HOA there, and they're annoying the whole community. So again, this is like people's families here, and then people using this house as a hotel and not monitoring it properly. So the city stepped in and they said, hey, you got to get your occupational license. And they found electrical work around the pool. They found gates that didn't self-close and self-latch. They found things that they need to correct to protect the occupants that they're allowing on the property. Plus, they're an annoyance to all the neighbors around them. The zoning doesn't allow it. And if there's no HOA, usually the HOA catches up with you too. But these are we're getting skyrocket rates for these properties to rent per day and per week.
I
And
like that.
these are great. So
And the hotels are hating it.
yes, the hotels lobbied the cities like they did in Miami Beach really early on, because they're like, hey, look, these guys are competing with us, but they don't have to get fire alarm inspections. They don't have to get ADA compliance railings for people to get up. So then the second you start inviting the public onto your property, you change the use of that property. And that's how it's interpreted. What else? Yeah, in Broward, we are seeing like Pompano and Deerfield, who I like to pick on. They're going on Truly and Zillow. And they're going, when we put up a listing on MLS and it syndicates onto all the websites, they go fishing the internet. They go fishing the internet. I'm in Sea Haven over on 14th Street Causeway. They look through all the listings in there. They see brand new kitchens and floors and they write them up. And they find out about them right after they get listed. 3 days, 4 days after they are on the MLS, they syndicate onto our website, which helps us, our sellers, market to the property purchasers. And the city's fishing, the code officers are fishing out there. So they're kind of doing, I said to Pompano, if you're gonna do reoccupancy, do reoccupancy. But don't do it like you're doing it. It's like they're police officers looking for teenage drinking parties. They're fishing the internet.
And assessing violations.
And they're assessing violations. And to that point, the violations, they haven't even seen the inside. They're giving a warning, and those warnings come out usually right after the inspection period. So you're under contract. You're outside the inspection period, and now you're getting slapped with a warning. Now, keep in mind, these are condominiums. They have large losses. They have huge electrical issues in buildings, but they're trying to do the same throughout. So they're trying to address unpermitted issues or code violations during transfer of property ownership, like the reoccupancy, but without a process. But usually what happens is the municipalities, they all follow each other. I can advise you guys how to list the property, what to take pictures of, what not to take pictures of, what to put in the broker's remarks. I see these agents, they say, like for example, that North Miami Beach property, they're like, this property is zoned for 9 units. And it's an RM2 zoning, but it says 9 units per dwelling acre. An acre's 43,560 square feet. This is a 9,000 square foot lot. So again, there's a lot of agents making misrepresentations on existing conditions of property. It's a liability to your license, your broker, your seller, your buyer, and we start to see litigation after closing.
What about if they put in the broker's remarks, there is an unauthorized wall, that the garage was converted without permit?
So usually what I wouldn't put that in the broker's remarks.
No,
I don't
wouldn't
think
either.
I don't think the broker's remarks gets syndicated onto the
No,
websites.
no,
They
no.
stay with us.
No, you can put that on, actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
You can put that on the broker remarks, and you must, because what happened is many years ago.
Disclose. You must
Yeah, you have to
that's-
disclose, because you don't want people to get to the property and it turns out they're like, oh, well, we didn't know the garage was
Definitely
converted.
of interest is what.
Correct.
But every one of these houses, that even in an HOA or without an HOA, everyone builds in the garage. They have young kids at home, they have grandma at home, they need more space, so usually you see in these houses, like when my mom bought in Embassy Lakes, people take down the walls and they put up the walls in between closings. You see the lines in the ceiling and things like that. If there's an HOA, they don't allow this. They don't allow anyone, again, the finished floor elevation, you know how when you step down in a garage, it's not the same elevation as the bathrooms, the living area, you know, the kitchen, and everything. So the building code says the same. So if you're in an HOA, you're gonna have a problem with it. You'll never open your garage door. You're gonna have an issue with it. If you're not in an HOA, it's not livable area. You can't, you know, you're gonna have issues. My recommendation is to property owners to convert it back to storage and then list the property. Oh, I put this nice bathroom in there. I cut the slab to the drain line going out there. I would put it back to its original condition before you list the property. They're saying, oh, but you could list it as a 4th bedroom and I put $20,000, $30,000 into the garage. I even had people take out because they wanted to build a couple walls, they took out the garage door railing, you know, in that house. I say that house, all right, that house in Homestead, you know, but yeah, no, but that's the truth. So this guy in Coral Springs, what happened was a couple years ago is his wife went in the first buyer's agent went to the city, asked if the bedroom and bathroom in the garage was legal. The city came to the property, the seller's wife let the agent in the property, showed him the bedroom and bathroom in the garage. They could have demoed it for $900, $1,000. It turns into $10,000. Why does it turn into $10,000? Because now you need to pull permits. You need inspections. You have double the permitting fees. You have to start doing things a different way to code. So it can mean a difference between your sale happening or not. It could be a difference between, you know, you losing your relationship out, you know, with your seller or your buyer hating you 7 or 8 months down the line when they found out that, hey, these things were overlooked. So that's why you call me. For example, a lot of listing agents, they say, okay, you could build a pool in this backyard. All right, well, let me see the survey. All right, well, let me research the setbacks with the city and the lot coverage. So don't be really quick to say those things. And you'd be surprised, everything's in writing, everything's in emails, and people go back. But my goal, like I said, not to scare you, is to help you save your relationships. My consultations are for free. You can call me for free. If I feel I can help you and I have to come out to the property, I charge an inspection fee of $650. So that's to provide reporting, documentation, come and inspect the properties and the existing conditions, and maybe pull records at the city. That's not resolution, that's not fixing things, that's just, you know, and if you find a lot of problems and you're representing the buyer, I say, call me before you call the home inspector, because most likely, sometimes as a general contractor, I'll find, and a roofing contractor, I'll find problems that you might have seen glimpses of, or the property owner might tell you about, or the buyer might see. You don't even want to invest money in the home inspection. So sometimes the problems are so big. I'm called in Southwest Ranches. They have 3 houses on this lot. One of the houses is in this sagging piece of land at the back corner of the 2-acre property. It doesn't meet floodplain elevation. Hey, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. It's in the setbacks. It doesn't meet the floodplain elevation. So I can advise the buyers accordingly. Hey, that building didn't have a permit. There's nothing wrong with that building. It can't be legalized. It's a non-conforming use. So the buyers bought the property with that building, knowing its status. Great. We got to the closing table, you know, but it's all about transparency and being aware, and I can be a resource for you. Does anyone have any questions, more questions?
So in that case, somebody that buys a property like that and that comes to city, then the city will have to demolish the whole thing.
That's correct. The town of Southwest Ranches will red tag that structure, and yeah, and you can't bring it into compliance because the finished floor on an elevation certificate, and on it, sometimes it says the elevation on the survey in the middle of the square, but on the elevation certificate, there's 7 inches or 8 inches below the main level of the house in the accessory structure. It's going to flood. They don't want areas that are going to be in flooding or in drainage easements or things like that. And that's in any city. And right now I have a lot of people coming here, and you know, you have a lot of people coming here from other areas of the country, especially. they're looking to invest big money in these properties. So we want to let them know, hey, you can do this, you can't do this, and they'll really appreciate it. It'll help you keep your relationship.
On the property appraiser's office, they'll list that the home is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Yeah.
Once someone does a legal conversion,
Sure.
do they update that or they stay with the original? The original construction?
So I'm gonna pull up the property appraiser in a second. That's a great question. Santiago, can you pull up BCPA? Just bcpa.net. So your question was, once they convert the garage legally, which by the way, it's very hard to convert the garage legally because you have to float the floor up. And there has to be 7 feet, 7 inches between the floor and the roof, you know, but legally, there is a way to update it, but be very careful. You would bring the building permit that is completed over to Marty Care's office, and then they would assess that room differently. From livable square footage to garage area. I'll show you what I'm talking about in the sketch, and I'll give you an example, but a lot of times we have issues because the livable square footage doesn't address on the property appraiser, it addresses less. And people want to update that and just be very careful. I was in Miami-Dade County, and for the reoccupancy inspections, the first thing the reoccupancy inspector does is they look at the tax roll for Miami-Dade County property appraiser. And they say, oh, this is a 3-1, but this is a 4-2 in the field. What's gone on here? So there's a little loophole around that. Once you have your buyer's appraisal, or if the seller appraises the property, take it to the Miami-Dade County property appraiser, only if it's a single family residence. They'll use that appraisal as long as it's done with a year and update the bed and bath count. And that could be done before the reoccupancy inspection, but Broward's different. The single family division does not handle things like that. And sometimes they change their rules, but everything on the property appraiser is just used for taxable value.
That's my question. If that happens, that legally, like he says, the garage is gonna be another bedroom, is that true that also is gonna increase your taxes? Like if you have 3-2 and now it's 4-2, is that true that the taxes can increase?
They're gonna increase it off the square footage, where when I pull up that sketch, you can pull up the sketch on BCPA and it shows garage, LR, FR for front room. Just go to here. I'm gonna do, so I've known Santiago since 9 years old, and we both grew up in Weston. I'm gonna do the block we both grew up on. Okay.
Okay.
Do 648 Stanton Drive. Don't put drive in that field. Just put Stanton. They know.
Search.
They know. Yeah. So here, if you scroll down, it says the size of the lot, which that's not where we're going for. They have a building improvement value and a land value. So this is all for taxable purposes. If you scroll down, Santiago, you can click on sketch. So one more question I get, active versus effective year building. Sometimes those are 10 years off. If someone did an addition or substantial remodel and they had a building permit, sometimes more so on commercial properties, but multifamily too, you'll see a big difference between the active and the effective year. And it provides an explanation of that as well. But if you click on sketch, so this house, we have a back porch here, we have a garage here. And this is the main part of the house. So if you scroll down, is there another? Yes, yeah, there. It describes each square footage of each room. So you have some measurements and they use the measurements of the footprint for taxable value. But if you want to start, if you say, let's say North Lakes HOA allowed you to build a garage up and you got a permit from the city of Weston to build the garage up. And now you want to count this as this 450 square foot garage, which is roughly 20 by 20 or whatever. Scroll below something I can do. it has a little lip there. I forgot there's where the hot water heater is, but it's not a perfect square. So if you want to count all 450 square feet, you can update the livable square footage on the property appraiser. Now, it gets very controversial doing that because I'll tell you personally, it doesn't make financially sense to do that. From a construction standpoint, if you're gonna raise the floor 7 inches in the garage and you're gonna open up the ceiling and the trusses, you wouldn't wanna do that. So these things, these bedrooms and bathrooms and garages, they're referred to as non-conforming uses. Basically, I can't bring them into compliance. A seller can write me a $50,000 check and say, convert this into a legal living area. It can't be done. So my suggestion is bedrooms and garages, enclosed patios, different things like that. Just be very careful what you call them. I had a resident in Hollywood, they said, well, we got an impact window. Well, this was an older house. It was from the 40s. We got an impact window in our front porch. I don't want to quote that one because it's ongoing. I'm thinking, can I? But it's on Fletcher Street, east of Federal, right on the Hollandale Hollywood border. They said, we got an impact window permit in 2019 to enclose the front porch, but the front porch was done without a permit. So again, you're not legalizing these non-conforming uses is very difficult. And you can go back and forth with the city and they're going to play games with you. So
Going back to the original question, just scroll down a little bit, please. Scroll down, okay. You see that large opening in the living area? Yeah, there to the right, assuming that that's a wide open space or an open floor plan.
Yeah.
And you wanted to add in the living space, make your living room smaller to allow for another bedroom for your mother-in-law, whatever. And then you pull permits to do all of that. Does the city or the county update this and make it a 3-bedroom?
they don't update it automatically, but you would have to bring the closed permit from the city of Weston to Broward County. Obviously, that wouldn't update the square footage because the
No,
living
it's the
area
same
square
thing,
footage
same
is the
thing.
same. However, they can update the bed and bath count. And to tell you the truth, I don't know all about the taxable value, but usually the taxable value is based on an aggregate of the closed sales and the square footage. So it may or may not even change your taxable value, but it will reflect another bedroom. And then the appraiser on the house can put the property has a 5th bedroom. Now, for it to meet, the building code says you need a bedroom needs a window. So you have to have a window there that has a windowsill that's no more than 42 inches above the ground, so you get out in case of fire. It has to have a closet, and it has to be a minimum size.
I thought they changed that.
Change what?
The closet.
No, if the bedrooms have to have closets. They have to be a minimum, it's in the Florida building code. They have to be a minimum size. I'd say some of the cities like Hollywood, they'll say they don't let you build like in multifamilies efficiencies less than 350, 400 square feet, like hotel rooms. But the building code outlines the breakdown of what a bedroom has to have: a means of egress, a closet. It has to be a particular amount of square footage. It has to have outlets on every wall. Every 12 feet a wall needs an outlet. And the cities can then take that further and modify that. But there was a bunch of arguments that people had. Hey, these are arguments that appraisers have. I've seen appraisers have. Hey, this den here, I see a window and I see a door, but I don't see a closet. So that I've heard of what you're talking about, but I've seen it more on the appraisal sides, not on the building code side. But technically, an appraiser, it's a, what do they call it, an art or science, but an appraiser can make a determination, whatever they want to. And some overlook it, say, hey, I don't care about a closet. Some
That's
fall
what I
within the criteria.
That's true.
But-
Than I want.
And but yeah, no, people are, again, this property's from 1991 in Weston. That's when my family moved there from North Miami Beach after Andrew, when everyone moved over there. But people, you need to repurpose these uses. Like we see now, there's trendy areas that are in the east that were once blighted and now they're building new big buildings on. So, you know, times change. people don't care about a Roman tub anymore. They want a big sexy shower. So like you're saying, people need an extra bedroom, people need to convert more living area in the garage illegally. And it's very cheap to put up a wall in the garage, but then it gets expensive to start doing plumbing and a bathroom and things like that. But hey, let's put this into a scenario. Maybe if you have a beautiful bathroom and a bedroom and even a small kitchenette, which you're not supposed to have in a garage because they don't want using it as an efficiency, maybe you only list it to cash buyers. And maybe you don't put pictures of that on the MLS in your listing. Hey, a nice kitchenette in here, nice that there. And again, so there's ways to navigate all of these scenarios. We know FHA and VA has stricter standards, but there's ways to navigate. It's very interesting because the city, they just want, like, when I've converted illegal bedrooms and bathrooms, they make you write storage on the plans. And then you pass the inspection, the city leaves, then the next owner does the same thing. So it's all about, knowing the code, knowing the people, knowing the process. I'm not a magician, but I do know how to navigate. And, people, so it's also about being proactive. But I work with a lot of realtors and title companies and real estate attorneys and brokers like that, me and Tony. I mean, the brokers are primarily calling me because helping the agents navigate the issues. If you don't have these tools that your broker's given to you, you're going to be scrambling for days, not knowing how to close the deal, trying to call the contractor who's still in business. And and then that contractor says, I'll call you in 3 days. And then I'll call you in 6 days. And all of a sudden your time is running out here. And so it's kind of all about, who has the leverage. But I come in to fix these scenarios and that's what I do. And I'm a general contractor. I'm a roofing contractor. I want to give you some information here real quick before we end.
Open up the presentation.
One quick question I would say.
Sure.
Above ground pools. So you do see mainly actually in greater Orlando area that a lot of homes are listed as a pool home, and then you click through pictures and you find the above ground. My personal opinion, probably 10% out of them have a permit.
A lot of them, you're gonna have electrical compliance issues, because with pools, the electric and the water is a big thing, so they'll have the pool, they'll have cords running. A lot of them I've seen done without permits.
So would you then put it even in the listing?
I honestly, I wouldn't put it, it's a temporary structure. Some people even build decks around it and elevate those decks to the height of the pool. Again, the problem is the gates don't self-close and self-latch. You don't meet all the swimming pool barrier requirements. But again, if you're in North Florida, again, a lot of the problems we have in South Florida with our 90 municipalities in the Tri-County and Monroe area, they don't have in Longwood. They don't have in Castleberry. I go to these areas and I get called sometimes, but they don't have a lot of, and especially in the rural areas, they don't have open permits. It's just because of our environment and people leaving unpaid contractors, or what mostly time happens, contractors leaving people without completed work. There's a final slide that I want to show you real quick.
It is true, Ben, that the cities use Google Maps to see the backyards of the property.
So on the property appraiser, do I have time 1 second?
Of course.
Sure.
Okay. Wait, so we have to look at the.
Go back to, so on the property appraiser, I'll show you something real cool. That if you don't know this feature.
There?
Yeah, just go back to the main tab. And click on maps. It's up. I'm
View-
sorry.
view map?
View map.
You must-
So here, if you scroll down, click that down arrow, Santiago, where it says aerials. I could go to aerials back to 1998. I could see pools, fences. When I got called and I was working in the city of Weston, they had a big landowner out in West, I'm not gonna even mention his name, gets a call, hey, they've up along US 27, hey, this person built a building on the site, we saw it on the aerial, on the flyover. Give them a call, get their permits through. So again, they take an aerial every year. And they know additions, unpermitted things. Miami-Dade County has the same thing. You could do different shots of the elevation. This is also a really cool tool, which which we have in Broward. We have, if you go to these different counties with the property appraiser, they don't have the stuff we have. So if you go to this tool right here, and you click on this, this allows you to measure, and it's pretty accurate. It allows you to measure roof lines, pool decks, property. But again, let's use City of Weston, for example. City of Weston only has a 60% lot coverage, which means you can only cover 60% of the lot with the AC, the driveway, the pool deck, the footprint of the house. So you go to a house like this, can you scroll here? No, forward, sorry. Just up. There you go. You go to a house like this with the shed in the back. You can't scroll, zoom in more, can you?
Yeah, good.
Okay, it's gotta use the hand.
And sketch, grab it up, yeah. So you go to a house like this, or like this, use this hand tool right there, the panning, and just drag it up. So you go to a house like this with this illegal deck in the back that's supposed to be set 5 foot back from the property lines. I mean, these are some of we see these issues in Miami Gardens, for example, where people have paved the lot in Hialeah. They paved the whole lot from front to back, from side to side. There's nowhere for the water to go. So we know that, there's impervious versus pervious areas. City of Weston says, we're not gonna allow you to have a building permit and cover any accessory with more than 60% of the lot. So this looks like a lot more than 60% of that lot covered. So they added to the pool deck. They did a shed there. The shed's in the setback. Again, there's very easy ways. And then you could go back down here, and I would go to 2007.
Oh my
God.
Oh my God.
It disappeared. What happened?
It's free, right?
It's free. What?
It's free, the software.
Yeah,
This is our property appraiser.
yeah.
This
the
is,
Broward County
so, again, you're looking more at 60%. So there's different ways of monitoring of growth. Code officers don't have to go in the field. Also, your property appraiser, they're using this for taxable value. They're using this for accessory structures, taxable value. I wouldn't say the property appraiser is citing you, but they have it as a resource, but also the cities have it as a resource. And make sure you always have your owner update. But you can, again, same with Miami, you can also look at different elevations of the property. But this is really cool stuff that I love Marty, and I love the property appraiser's office, and I've done a lot of classes, but I'm not interested in talking about homestead exemptions. I want to talk about cool stuff like this, because this is the stuff that we deal with, that I know. And these are also tools that you can use to help you in your business, and resources that we have here. And from this, you can create printouts and do whatever, and take a picture of the front property. We use this in insurance claims. We use this for permitting. We use this for expert witness work and things like that.
And this is all Google Maps, right?
This is all on bcpa.net.
No, but it's connected to Google Maps.
I don't know. I don't think so.
That's gotta be the provider.
No, they're, I don't think they are, because scroll this bar down. They're using their own, they're not using Google.
Mm.
They have someone, if you back this out, Santiago,
Wow.
this picture right here. Back it out more, back it out more. Oh, there's State Road 84, I found this.
It looks like, Apquest.
Back more, all the way back out, where where Broward cuts off. And click on aerial. Here, go up here. Sometimes does show it. these are different, what these are, when I used to do urban planning, is these are different layers that you can, this is a public portal, like I used to use GIS, and this is a public application where you can add on layers.
I like the FEMA flood zones.
There is, so there's FEMA flood zones, there's zoning, which is great, so, but what I was trying to say is, they have their own aerial just cut out for the county.
Wow.
I think they're using their own provider, but I could double check with that. I don't even know that.
Looks private. Looks like.
Right?
Yeah,
It could, it could
doesn't
be,
look like Google Maps.
and if you scroll in real quick here. There's Markham Park, there's Sawgrass Mills, Metropica. Put on the layer where it says city zoning codes. And scroll in a little more. City. Yeah, you'll start to see the zoning codes, R1, AE, you'll start to see the different lake maintenance easements like Weston has, or West Miramar has. Weston is all a planned community. They could push a button and all the lakes drain. And they go to the other side of 75, so it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Question about the zoning codes. Do the different municipalities in Broward County use the same codes?
No.
Code references?
No, you'll see some similarities. And most of the time, we're called to do zoning verifications. For example, a buyer wants to buy a tract of land. They want that, you can order a zoning verification or go on here, but they don't only want to know the zoning verification. They want to know what you could do with it, right? They want to know, so a zoning verification only verifies the existing zoning. You can pay the city for that. Or if you need to hire me, I can not only give you a zoning verification, I can give you, if I have the site plan survey, the plotting, I could tell the easements, what's buildable, what's not buildable, and the percentages. Typically, this Broward County updates. I wouldn't rely on zoning information from the property appraiser. I would go to the municipality, because the municipality is always changing the zoning, but the property appraiser updates it annually, or might miss something. So I would go to the municipality and look at their zoning map. I wouldn't.
What's the website?
Any like, so for example, if you go to like any municipality, like Hollywood, just Google Hollywood planning and zoning.
Okay.
And then you look at their planning and zoning map. City of Miami has an interactive one. They have an interactive version of this, with that they have a GI. Again, the larger cities are gonna have more resources. The smaller cities, like you go on North Lauderdale website, there's not even a form to download. It's just or West Park. These are small cities that, don't have the same, But again, in my opinion, there's too many cities. Like we go back to Tampa and Hillsborough County, there's Plant City, Temple Terrace, and the city of Tampa. And the rest is Hillsborough County. That's in Tampa. There are too many municipalities down here that have incorporated. They're all fighting over money. They're all always changing their rules. And like what went down last year, how I resolved the permit, won't be the same way the next year. The building official will change. I know the people in the process, but sometimes it gets a little bit, scary. And that's what I'm here to help, navigate through. But yeah, no, but yeah, so again, to go back to your question, I would not use this for zoning verification. You could use it for a little bit of reference. I think the biggest tools on here are the photograph, which it also shows you a picture of the front of the property, and you could keep going back and back and back. Yeah, that's the house I grew up in. There it is. Yeah. So, there's that bedroom and that garage. I bet it. But yeah, no, it was, and I grew up around the block from Santiago and North Lakes, and his parents still live there. But the point is that, we're not cul-de-sac kids anymore, and these people need more bedrooms in their garage, and the house isn't $130,000 anymore from Arvida. It's 620, and then some. So it's really a pleasure using this tool, and it's a pleasure being here and showing you the stuff, and it's fun. And we can even, if you want in the future, if if the agents want a specific class on, for example, Airbnb, or they want a hot
I
topic,
like that.
I can do a class.
The cash cow.
Just on-
Airbnb is next.
I can talk about Airbnb for a couple hours.
Ooh, I love it.
All right.
Okay.
So you let me know.
Thank you.
They want your, on Zoom, we have like about 18 people. They want your information.
Okay, it's right there. We'll provide you the PowerPoint. Also,
The list, you said the list of.
the list of reoccupancy, I owe you that as a deliverable. And yeah, and so this is my information. This is reliable lien search. If you have any information, if you need anything from them, if you call them with the property address or email them, they will go ahead and tell you how much the lien search costs. I recommend people, they could go to their title company they have a relationship with already. But again, let's also make sure that all the title companies we work with are pulling the lien search at an early place. And let's request that they do that so they earn our business. Because this is protecting the transaction. These are the best practices of business, and this is in the best interest of the listing, the clients, and everyone. So
There's an Instagram and our social media.
I post little things on Facebook and Instagram. I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and then I put all my classes online. But again, I do a lot on LinkedIn. I do little 1-minute videos of things in the field that I'm talking about and different things. And if you have any questions or it comes up to you, but please like our Facebook, Instagram. You can like me on LinkedIn. I'll also return that like and share.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We got a picture with you, Gabby.
Oh, Gabby, can we take a picture of the class?
Yes, of
We'll
course.
do one up front, here,
Okay, everybody there?
or
Or do you want
whatever you want.
Oh, right now we have this. Yeah, right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody, everybody can come to the front. Does anybody in the chat has any questions?
Oh, yeah, that's important,
Please let me know. Tony says, great job.
thank you, yay.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody to being here. We're gonna start the recording now.
Yeah, everyone gather in, come on, group photo, take a group picture. It was a fun morning. Yes.
Nobody else wants to.
I'm-
Everybody?